Today is May 13th, 2026. I'm practicing Toccatina, and I've started a new page recording all the practice times. I'm only playing Toccatina. So I started on the 9th. I played half an hour, and I worked on the 10th, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Starting up practicing again has been difficult, so I keep the practice time short, but I managed to do 4 of them and ended up doing twice as much practicing as I did the day before. Then the third day, on the 11th, I practiced longer, again half an hour, but I practiced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, not 4 times. Short sessions and medium long sections. So the practice total time increased a lot. Then yesterday, I only did half an hour. Now on the 11th, I practiced B3 only for all of those times. Music is divided up into sections. They all sound alike and then they repeat, and they may alternate and repeat again. One thing that I learned was that a phrase can be 4 measures long, and then another phrase would be 4 measures long. And I told that to my piano teacher, and he said, but it's not always true. They can vary in size. I mean, it's often true, but it's not necessarily always a law or anything like that. And Toccatina certainly shows that. All right. Now this piece of music, Toccatina, has a structure of A, B, A, C. The phrases are not always 4 measures long. So it was, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. I'm still trying to figure it out. So that's what I look for first. The other thing I do first when I practice is to learn the last part first. Now see, these 3 are the same. And these next 4, these parts are different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 measures, 11 if you start up here. I don't know where it starts. But I want to learn the last part first, and then the next to the last, and the previous to that next, instead of starting at the beginning and then playing through all the way to the end and learning the end last. All right, that's the main idea. I'm working up to a discovery I made, and I have to talk my way into it. They say that it has been said that if you want to learn something, teach it. Teach it to someone else. And what I'm saying is, if you want to learn something, teach it to yourself. And the way you do that is by talking about it out loud. It's like the difference between counting the music in your head and counting out loud with your voice. It's a big difference. So when I learned the last note, the last hand position of a piece of music, that's what I learned first. And what is it? It's in the F clef, the bass clef, and it's low C, the right hand, E, and A. And it's a staccato note, very soft. In the left hand, okay, low C, it's low A with a 5. That's what I learned first. So here's middle C, there's low C, There's double low C, way down there. And that's the last note of the song. You get there from the previous measure with your thumb on the E, way down there. That's the next to last measure. 1, 2, rest. 1, 2, rest. That's the hand position. It's not extended. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. E, D, C, B, A. You're playing the 1 and the 5. That's the last part. The last measure, left hand. The last measure, right hand, is below middle C, C, E, A. It's low C, E, and A. 1, 2, 5. 1, 2, 5. So that's an inversion. It's A, first inversion, A, C, E. Let's turn the piano on so we know the difference. A minor does not have any sharps or flats. It's relative to C major, so, and A, the last chord is A minor. A minor. That's A major. A minor. C is natural. In the beginning of the song, the first note is an E, but the melody starts on an A in the left hand. And the same chord begins the piece of music. But the left hand and the right hand do not play simultaneously. It's a pickup note on the E, which is a 5, and then 3 on the A. Now that's a different hand position, but the next to the last measure at the end of the song was that E. Okay, now it starts one and 2 and lift, 2 on B, lift, and then the E again. All right, what I'm doing, talking into this video camera and verbalizing, learning this piece of music, starting at the end and starting at the beginning. That's kind of a level. That's something to do. It's a little piece of something to do, a method that I use. But I never made that connection before between the end and the beginning. That's new knowledge for me. It begins with an A minor chord and it ends with an A minor chord. And it's a 1, 2, 5 hand position in the right and a single note in the left hand. 5, 3, E, A, E, A. So that's a extended hand position. The next note is a C, E, A, C. And 1 and 2 and 1. That's wrong. They're connected by a slur. They're played legato. Those 3 notes are played legato. Lift, then D. I'm verbalizing what I'm learning. And I'm also making a video. The hand position is extended 1 note with the little finger. The thumb is on C, the little finger is on E, C, B, A, G, and then move the little finger down 5. That's the first note, that's the second note, that's the third note, that's the fourth note. And the hand doesn't move yet. One, two, three, 4. That's 4 measures with the pickup note. the hand moves in the second line. So you could say that's the second phrase. So the main idea here is that I did what I'm explaining and videoing in one section. I'm trying to explain how I divided up the sections. This beginning section, A, goes down to here. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. That's 5 lines long. And then it becomes much different and more complicated. The chords gave me trouble the first time I was learning this section in the middle. I call it B. It goes to here on the second page. It's the bottom of the first page, the top of the second page. 2 full lines each, plus a little bit of the other line. 1 measure there, 1 measure here. And this was the tough part. These 4 bars were difficult for me to learn how to play 5 and 8 years ago. And I remember that difficulty. It was never resolved. And I never learned it well enough. I didn't know what those chords were. I had to learn to play them by finger numbers, positions, and I learned it physically, and it was difficult. So in relearning and reviving this piece the third time, because I learned it, I put the dates of when I started it, learning this song. This section was really hard. So I just wanted to concentrate on those 4 measures. They seem to be a unit that holds together in 4 bars. It's a 4-bar phrase. It changes and it's followed by a 4-bar phrase where all the notes are the same and all 4 measures repeat. So that is a solid phrase that follows the 4-bar pattern. So I exclude that. I'm not going to work on that. The previous 4 bars work together. There's 4 bars before that and 4 bars before that. I said, and it's all different. It's all these sharps and flats and everything. So there's 3 lines in 1 measure that are very different, and I call that B. So everything before that is relatively simple, and it repeats after it, and then it becomes even more simple and different at the end, and that's C. So it's A, B, A, C. And it's not all of A, it's only part of it. I'm not sure where C begins. Maybe C begins when you drop down into the F clef, the bass clef. The right hand lowers itself below middle C and starts playing in the left hand area. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there the pattern of 4 measures isn't the same, but this much is definitely A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 or 6, and then it becomes different. You move down into the bass clef, and that didn't happen in A on the first page. So what I did was I divided B into that first group of 4, which was at the end, and the next group of 4, and the next group of 4, and the next group of 4. Label them B1, B2, B3, and B4. Whew. And before I go any further, I'm going to take a breather. I worked on B3, May 11th, all day. Only B3. I kept jumping back and forth between the computer and editing 2x2, 6x6 centimeter negatives that were scanned, which I'm publishing into a book. So when the computer was figuring out a soundtrack and what the waveform was, I couldn't do anything, so I would come over and play on the piano. And whenever I exported a video, I couldn't do anything, so I came over and I played on the piano. And I would play a half an hour or a quarter hour, alternating. It looks like I did that all day. Did it 5 times. Half an hour, quarter hour, half an hour, quarter hour, half an hour. So that's longer practice time. But I only worked on B3. So a quarter hour on one measure, then a quarter hour on another measure, and I got through B3. And I did not look anywhere else. I did not do the last measure of B2. I did go into B4. So what was it like to only learn one bar at a time, one phrase in a day? The main thing that sticks with me, which I realized when I was editing the videos, was that I edited a lot. I was editing photographs, still scans of photographs. But I actually made a video of me editing one of the scans. I was putting in as much work on the piano that I did on a scan. And I actually learned it. It was making sense. One thing I had to do, was to change the little number after the chord name. I had to double check the chord names. I'm just learning chords. And the last time I worked on this piece, I tried to name what the chords were. My piano teacher, Jeff Harris, told me, learn the notes. Say the notes. Say the names of the notes. So what I was doing was, because I made a screen capture of me editing a video, I had to make a soundtrack of it, of me talking, because you can't make a soundtrack with your voice while you're making a screen capture. The computer won't capture it. You either have to have a video camera and then take the soundtrack from the video camera and put it onto the screen capture in the editing program, or what I did was I played the screen capture and I recorded my voiceover while it was playing. So it was like, it's a soundtrack screen capture of the playback of the screen capture, something like that. So I was doing that. I transferred that. I moved that. I synthesized what I did on the computer onto the piano practice. And I talked as if I were making a soundtrack while I was practicing. So I talked to myself. Good thing nobody was around, because there wasn't a camera on. But it really, really helped me. For example, I took the name of the first chord. It's a B major chord, first inversion. The B major chord has, chords in inversions are written or said to have a root position. So the B is at the bottom. That's the root. And then the chord is built on top with 2 whole steps and then a step and a half for a major chord. Okay? If you take and make the next inversion, you take the bottom note, put it on the top. That becomes the first inversion. It's the second chord, the second form of the chord, and then you take the bottom note and put it on the top so that the root is in the middle. That's the second inversion, or the third form of the chord. And what I was doing was numbering the chord inversions, counting the root as 1. And I changed that to make it R1, 2. Root, first inversion, second inversion. The third inversion is the root. Okay, so to keep the first form of the chord first as the root, the first inversion has to be the second form of the chord. All right, so I erased all the 2s and changed them to 1s. That was on that, and then I had to make sure that it was a major chord and not a minor chord, and I listen to it. So the first bar, here we go, first bar of B3, B major 1, with a B in the left hand. And then it goes to C major 1. The shape of the right hand is very similar between 1, 2, 4 and 1, 2, 5. You move up half a step. The left hand has the 2 on B and then the 1 on C. However, the right hand has the 4 on B, go down, the 2 on F sharp, and the 1 on D sharp. So B3, correction, the left hand has a 3 on B. That was it. That's the hook. B3 begins with the left hand with 3 on B. B3, 3B, left hand. Here's middle C. This is the first note of the first measure of B3. And this is the second note. It's a 1 on C. And then the entire thing repeats, but the left hand is in a different position. The second measure begins with a 2. So you go 3 on the first measure because it's B3, and you put a 1 on C. Then the second measure, the second bar, begins with the second finger, 2. Okay? That's the first half. The right hand is the same. Now the hand position in the right hand changes from 1, 2, 4 to 1, 2, 5. What does that look like on the keyboard? D sharp, F sharp, B. That's not much different from that. That's the transition. Blocked. And the left hand only plays a note simultaneously with it when you play the second note at the end of the bar, the fourth beat. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and... Now I talked my way through that out loud, erasing and writing, making sure I use the 5 on the C and not moving up the 4 by expanding the hand. The hand pretty much stays in the same position. The first 2 fingers are exactly the same. The hand moves up and they play, and then you change fingers, and the hand does not expand or contract. So if I use my 5 for both chords, the hand does not expand or contract. What's happening here is that the fingers are changed, but the hand position does not change. You don't have to expand it or contract it to play more or less notes. That's the position of the hand for the first 2. And that's what I learned about learning how to play that measure. In B3, we have the 3 on the B. The second measure, we have the 2. 1 and 2, and those next two measures are also identical to each other. So you're only learning two things in one phrase. The first two repeat, and the last two repeat. And I did that like 5 different times for half an hour or quarter hour, and something happened. Something started to happen, actually. It started to happen. I got so many of these hooks, like you start with the 3 on the B, but then the second measure you have to start with the 2 on the B. And the 1 is in the first measure, and the 2 is in the second measure. Things like that. Saying things like that made my mind envelop the music and absorb it in a way that I hadn't ever been doing. And simply by, repeating those 2 measures for half an hour, one time, one day, it felt really great. It felt different. It felt like I knew it in a way that I had never learned it before. And remember, I used to fumble and fiddle and search and get it wrong so many times when I was playing it that my teacher circled the new chord in the right hand, which is not a new chord. It's a new fingering for that chord, because the second half follows the pattern of 1, 2, 4, then 1, 2, 5, and I think I was going back to the 1, 2, 4 on the B major 1 instead of 1, 2, 5 on the B major 1. And that's the same as that phrase. The finger that plays the same chord changes. The 5th and the 4th fingers swap places on the second half of B3. So I'm tired. This is enough. I think I've explained that I never worked hard enough to learn something totally, thoroughly, comprehensively, and that's why I could never learn how to play this super fast. Now I'm 80, and it takes a lot of work to make my brain learn something new. Maybe it was always like this because, I'm not a freaking genius. I'm not a pedagogue. No, I'm not even able to say the word right. I'm not a born piano genius, okay? I had to work at it. But I don't mind. I never quit working at it, but I never worked that hard. And I think if I worked as hard at the piano as I did at photography yesterday, and I made 30 prints. See them? That's half of them. I edited them all, and I printed them all, and this is half of them. So if I spent that much time on the piano instead of photography, then I would be a frickin' genius, and I would be able to play this as fast as the young lady in my church who played it twice as fast as me. It was insanely fast. She really liked to play fast. Okay, so that's the goal. Learn it well enough that I can play it fast. But I wanted to learn it. And I'm learning it by naming every single little thing that I would learn in my head. I'm saying them now out loud, and that really helps me to learn it. Maybe that will help somebody else learn it if they explain what it is they're learning. Okay? The last chord is an A minor. The first chord is an A minor. So it's now 1:45. I finished explaining everything. I turned the video off. I had to turn it on again to finish the practice session. So I practiced from 1:05 to 1:45. That's 40 minutes. I don't record 40-minute intervals. What is that? 2/3? 20, 40, 60. That's a 2/3. I'll start. I'm going to write down 1:45 under the 950 and put a 2/3.